This is one bloodline that should be passed on, as in passed on, passed on. Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 2018 movie directed by Henry Jacobson, Bloodline. Now, I apologize in advance. I've been battling a cold all weekend and it's settled down into my chest, so if you see a bunch of cuts, that's probably me coughing my lungs out. Like that, right there. Okay, I watched this movie. I picked it up and watched it mainly because of Seann William Scott. I'm not going to lie there. I've seen too many instances in which a comedic actor will achieve some level of success and sometimes pause their career, sometimes not, but eventually decide to try their hand at more darker content and try for something, more dramatic, more serious, and just ultimately darker in tone. And oftentimes it works really, really well. So I kind of wanted to see, does Seann William Scott have the chops to pull something like this off? And to answer that, no. He didn't put on a bad performance, but there were some pretty major inherent flaws with this movie that his performance was not able to overcome, rise against, and offset. So this movie follows the character of Evan, played by Seann William Scott. He is a new father. He has a wife of a few years, and they are both struggling. They just had the baby, and it's not latching for breastfeeding. It's waking up at all hours of the morning and keeping them awake and so on. So it's causing friction and stress at home. Meanwhile, Evan is also a crisis counselor for a local high school where he helps out students that are in strife within their family lives. And also, Evan is a serial killer. It's not shy about making that known pretty early on. So what will wind up happening is if a child, or a teenager rather, is in a crisis situation specifically due to neglect or abuse by a particular family member, that Evan will enact his own brand of serial killer justice upon them to try and improve the lives of his students. Meanwhile, back at home, like I said, it's stressful, so he invites his mother to come and help out. And it's also pretty clear early on that his mother was one of the people that saw this serial killer tendency in him and fostered it. And this is really, first and foremost, not new territory. To have a serial killer focus their tendencies upon the greater good of mankind in enacting justice while a parental figure encourages this, we've seen it before. It's been very popular. So as far as anything new to the table, this movie doesn't bring a whole lot. But I think there are two major problems with this movie outside of that. The first is tone, and the second is conflict, and they're very intertwined. Now, I'll touch on tone, but I want to get into conflict before finishing that. The tone of this one is very drab and somber and serious and depressing. And it's not just the tone of the camera work and so on, it's the tone of all of the characters. Their attitudes are very sad and serious throughout. The Evan character is very monotone, one note, just dour. His wife Lauren, you get the sense that she's probably going through some level of postpartum depression. So, stands to reason, serious, depressed, sad from there. The Marie character of Evan's mother, also the same. So that's generally the tone throughout. And where we get into real issues because of that is with the conflict. This movie could not figure out what it wanted its conflict to be. That's pretty much what it comes down to. What is the major source of conflict for the protagonist, in this case, the Evan character, that we should be latched onto and care about? Well, it seems like the only real conflict that this movie has to offer is, will he get caught? Which, from the point of view of the serial killer, is kind of not that great. The will he get caught thing has been done so many times, and it's such a flimsy conflict as far as the nature of, you know, us being invested in the movie goes, that I really think that it should have had a different point of view and a different conflict entirely. If this was, if the Lauren, the wife character, was the protagonist, if we were looking at the movie through her eyes, then her slowly, finding information about her husband, Evan, it would increase conflict just in a way that's engaging. We would have empathy for her. We would feel something. And then as she finds out more, then she's in a situation of danger and potentially mortal danger that becomes scary. As it is, we're not following her, we're following Evan. And the whole will he or won't he get caught, the question at that point becomes by whom? His wife? Okay, well now we're entering back into the tone situation. If we're worried about him being caught by his wife, then what about that should we really care about? And the tone makes that unclear. Having it so depressed and sad and dour all the time, that doesn't really show us a whole lot of stakes. You know, he's not exactly at risk of losing this happy suburban family environment. That was something that the movie The Clove Hitch Killer did really well, is it showed a level of happiness, at the very least surface level happiness, that showed stakes. If the protagonist was right about his father, then there's a lot to lose there. Even the movie Seven, which is one of the most dark and depressing movies throughout as far as tone goes, had the wherewithal to show happy moments. You know, when Morgan Freeman had dinner with Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow's characters, it was a happy, laughing family experience, and that showed us this is what is at stake. This is what the characters could stand to lose if they were to lose everything. And in this case, with the Evan character in Bloodline, it didn't really show us a whole lot that he would have to lose that we should care about. So the tone meeting up with the conflict didn't really give us a whole lot to rally behind. And I ultimately just lost interest. As far as him getting caught by the police, well, I mean, you're kind of winding up in the same territory there of, you know, something being stripped away from him, but good luck on that one, because it's a good thing for Evan that he's being tailed by the most inept detective ever put to film. So ultimately, you had a movie that really had no stakes that I cared about, and from there, I lost interest. I'm going to go ahead and throw up all the scores here. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. The plot score was definitely hit by the tone and the conflict there, but no score more so than the intent, because that's ultimately what the intent category is for. I can take a movie that has a bunch of Nazi zombies that are just bloodthirsty and a bunch of, bare-breasted teenagers, and if that's what the movie's going for, just that sense of revelry and fun, whether or not it was a good movie, I can give it high marks on the intent score. And this movie was trying to be something that was engaging and dark and thrilling, and it wasn't really any of those things except for dark. Now, I will give this movie a little bit of credit, and then I'm going to take a little bit away. It does go down some areas that are grisly in a way that we rarely see in movies. Grisly in ways that if I went back and watched my review of The Clove Hitch Killer, and this movie is grisly in ways that I wish that one had been. But as it stands, I'm going to take a little bit away on that, because even though it did go down those avenues and it did try for that, the special effects in order to make that happen did look pretty fake and cheesy. So high marks on the, on the attempt. At least they wanted to go that route, but the actual execution of it, I'll take a little bit away there. So ultimately we wind up with a score of 39 out of 100 points, and a movie that I can honestly say I would really not recommend. If you're in the mood to watch a serial killer movie, there are much better ones out there. Clove Hitch Killer, worth a watch. I Am Not a Serial Killer, worth a watch. Seven, always worth a watch. Watch the first couple seasons of Dexter if you want to scratch this itch. So that should about do it. That's my review of 2018's Bloodline. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you like these videos, please click like and subscribe. And if you want to support me further, my Patreon link is below. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted. Time to take some Dayquil.